My husband suffered a sudden heart attack at his mistress's place. The ambulance arrived with sirens blaring, and the doctor hurriedly asked me to sign the surgical consent form. As I looked at him lying pale on the stretcher, I recalled his words from 3 months ago, business trip. I remembered the nauseating chat records on his phone. I also recalled what his mother said while protecting him: "It's normal for men to fool around outside, don't make a big fuss over nothing." The doctor urged, "Madam, the patient's condition is critical, please sign quickly." I put down the pen and said indifferently, "No rush, wait until his mother arrives." When the phone rang, I was packing luggage. Not mine, but Victor's. The suitcase he claimed to take on a 2-week business trip to the project site stood untouched in the entryway. It had been 3 months, and I had dusted it 3 times. The phone screen flashed husband. I swiped to answer, but a young woman's voice came through, laced with sobs and sharp panic. "Is this Iris? Come quickly to City First Hospital. Victor is not going to make it." I said nothing. I recognized the voice. 3 months ago, I had heard her voice messages on Victor's unlocked phone. Her cloyingly sweet tone, calling Brother Victor repeatedly. At that time, I was preparing his change of clothes for the next day's business trip. My heart felt gripped by an icy hand, my blood turning cold instantly. I didn't make a scene, I just silently noted the number. Now, the owner of that number was calling me using Victor's phone. "Hello? Are you listening? The doctor says it's a heart attack and needs family to sign for surgery. Come quickly." Seeing no response from me, her voice rose an octave, carrying an entitled commanding tone. "Address." My voice was calm, surprising even myself. The other party paused, seemingly unprepared for my reaction, but quickly rattled off the hospital address and emergency room location. I hung up and didn't leave immediately. I walked to the entryway, opened the dusty suitcase. Inside were neatly folded shirts, trousers I had prepared for him, and his favorite gray wool sweater. I took out the wool sweater, walked to the balcony, and threw it directly into the downstairs trash bin. Then, I changed clothes, grabbed my car keys and phone, closed the door, and went downstairs. Throughout the process, my hands didn't tremble at all. On the drive to the hospital, the city's neon lights flashed by the car window in a bizarre blur. I recalled that night 3 months ago. Holding his phone, I sat in the dark living room all night without sleep. I saw the double tickets he booked to another city, his hotel check-in info with that woman, and countless transfer records. The largest was 52,000 yuan. I also saw the WeChat from his mother Grace: "Son, it's normal for men to have social engagements and play along outside, just don't let your wife know. She's stubborn and makes a fuss, don't let it affect your marriage." Marriage. Looking at those words, I laughed out loud. The car stopped in the hospital parking lot. I entered the brightly lit emergency building, assaulted by the smell of disinfectant. From afar, I saw a young woman in a white dress pacing anxiously at the emergency operating room door. Her makeup was exquisite, but her eyeliner was smudged from crying, looking somewhat disheveled. It was her, the woman on Victor's phone screensaver, Lily. She saw me too and rushed over, grabbing my arm. "Why are you so late? The doctor has urged several times." I pulled my hand away. A doctor in a white coat approached quickly, face full of anxiety. "Are you Victor's family? He has acute myocardial infarction and needs immediate coronary bypass surgery. This is the consent form, look it over quickly and sign if no issues." He shoved the folder and pen into my hands. I looked down and saw Victor lying there in the folder, ashen-faced, lips purple, eyes closed, tubes inserted all over. The man who once boasted in front of me, accusing me of lacking romance, now looked like a fish out of water. Lily urged from the side, sobbing, "What are you standing there for? Sign quickly. Do you want to kill him?" The doctor frowned. "Madam, time is life, hurry up." I picked up the pen. The tip hovered 0.1 centimeters above the paper, just above where I needed to sign. I recalled Lily's coquettish brother Victor. I recalled Grace's "it's normal for men to play around." I recalled Victor's WeChat to Lily, "Ignore my wife, she's just a boring log." Slowly, I placed the pen back on the folder. Then, I looked up at the doctor, my voice not loud but unusually clear in the noisy corridor. "No rush, wait until his mother arrives." The entire corridor seemed to fall silent for a second. The doctor's anxious expression froze, he looked at me as if he hadn't understood. "Madam, what did you say?" Nearby, Lily stopped crying, eyes wide, face full of disbelief. I repeated, my tone even calmer than before. I said, "Wait for his mother to sign." "I'm his wife, but I don't want to sign now." "Nonsense." The doctor finally reacted, his volume rising sharply. "This is a matter of life and death. Don't you know that every minute delayed increases the patient's risk? You're his legal first priority relative. If you don't sign, who will?" "His mother." I looked at the doctor and clearly uttered two words. "His mother Grace is also his immediate relative. She can sign." Lily screamed, "Iris, you're crazy. Do you want him to die? You vicious woman." As she spoke, she lunged to grab the folder from my hand. I sidestepped, giving her a cold glance. Intimidated by the chill in my eyes, she stopped in place, only daring to glare daggers at me. Ignoring her, I took out my phone from my pocket, found the familiar number, and dialed. It rang for a long time before being answered. Grace's voice came through thick with sleep. "Who is it?" In the middle of the night. "Mom, it's me, Iris." "You? Why are you calling me?" Her tone immediately became impatient. "Speak quickly, I have to play cards tomorrow. Victor had an accident." I was concise. The other end went silent. A few seconds later, Grace's voice sharpened. "What happened? Isn't Victor on a business trip?" "Don't curse my son. He wasn't on a business trip. He was with another woman outside, had a sudden heart attack, and is now in the emergency room at City First Hospital, waiting for someone to sign for surgery." I relayed the doctor's words verbatim. I could clearly hear the gasp on the other end, followed by a more violent outburst. "What nonsense are you spouting? My son isn't like that. It must be you who angered him." "Which hospital?" "I'm coming right away. City First Hospital, emergency operating room." After giving the address, I hung up directly. The world became quiet. The doctor looked at me with a hesitant, frustrated expression. He probably hadn't seen such a calm, even cold, family member in his career. "Madam, whatever conflicts between husband and wife, you can't joke with life. I advise you once more, sign first, and deal with issues after the patient is out of danger." His tone softened, trying to persuade me. I shook my head and handed the folder back. "Doctor, my mind is made up. I won't sign today. He has a mother, she's on her way. When she arrives, have her sign." My gaze turned to Lily nearby, who was looking at me with venomous eyes. I stepped closer to her. She subconsciously retreated. I stopped, looked into her eyes, and said softly, "Didn't you say you're his true love? How come true love doesn't even have the power to let him live?" Lily's face flushed red instantly, her lips trembling, but she couldn't say a word. "Yes, what was she?" "A mistress, a third party. Legally, she was nothing. At Victor's life or death moment, only I and his mother could decide his fate. And I chose to abstain." I walked to the bench at the end of the corridor, sat down, took out my phone, and began reviewing the evidence I had saved. Intimate photos of Victor and Lily, explicit chat records, large transfer vouchers. Also, Grace's long messages to me urging to consider the big picture. Item by item, I had saved them all. I'm not a saint, I can't forgive with a smile. Nor am I a fool, helping count money after being sold out. Didn't you think it's normal for men to play around? Fine. Now, this playing man has nearly played himself to death. And the power to decide if he lives is in the hands of you two who understand him the most. I'm curious to see how you'll wrap this up." About 20 minutes later, rapid footsteps and cries approached, breaking the corridor silence. My son. My Victor. Where are you? Grace arrived. Grace swept in like a gust of wind. She wore silk pajamas with a haphazardly thrown-on coat, hair disheveled, face streaked with tears and panic. She spotted Lily waiting at the operating room door first, then me sitting on the bench playing with my phone. She didn't ask the doctor about the situation or look at Victor on the stretcher. She charged straight at me, raising her hand to slap me. I didn't lift my head, just leaned back and dodged. Her slap missed, her body stumbling from inertia, nearly falling. Iris. You jinx. If anything happens to my son, I'll never let you off. She steadied herself, pointing at my nose and cursing loudly. I finally put away my phone and looked up at her. Whether he has any mishap depends not on me, but on you. I said indifferently. The doctor, seeing another decision-maker, hurried over with the folder. Are you the patient's mother? It's urgent, sign quickly so we can operate immediately. Grace snatched the folder, without looking, shoved it into my arms. Sign quickly. What are you standing there for? Do you want to kill my son? Her force was strong, the folder's hard corner hurt me. I pushed it away. I said, I won't sign. You won't sign? Grace's voice rose sharply, piercing. Victor is your husband. He's lying inside, life hanging by a thread, and you won't sign to save him? Is your heart made of stone? Whether my heart is made of stone, don't you know best? I looked at her, countering word by word. Grace was stunned. The surrounding air seemed to freeze. Even the doctors and nurses stopped, curiously watching our family drama. Lily timidly approached, tugged Grace's sleeve, and whispered, Auntie, don't worry, Sister Iris, she might just be angry temporarily. Her quickly. Her aggrieved, big-picture green tea act was truly astonishing. Grace, as if finding an ally or outlet, grabbed Lily back and cried to her, Look. Look at this woman. Victor is like this, and she still refuses to help. I was blind back then, how could I agree to Victor marrying such a heartless woman? While crying and shouting, she glared at me viciously from the corner of her eye. This was a performance for the doctors and nurses, for everyone, portraying me as a vicious wife who refuses to save her husband over marital squabbles. I didn't disappoint her. I stood up, walked to her. She thought I was yielding, a smug look flashing on her face. I took the folder from her hand, opened it in front of everyone. Then, I picked up the pen, not aiming at the signature line, but handed it to her. Mom, you sign. Grace was stunned again, looking at the pen I offered, face full of astonishment. What did you say? I said, you sign. I pushed it forward again, the tip almost touching her nose. You're crazy? I'm his mom, you're his wife. You're the one who should sign. She screamed, stepping back as if the pen was a monster. The law states that spouses, parents, and adult children all have signing rights. I forfeit mine, now it's your turn, perfectly reasonable. My voice wasn't loud, but every word was crystal clear. The doctor whispered in agreement, theoretically, that's correct. The mother can sign too. Grace's face alternated between red and white. Of course, she didn't want to sign. Signing meant bearing all risks of the surgery. If it failed and he died, who would bear the responsibility? She was accustomed to enjoying privileges and shirking responsibilities. She spent Victor's earnings without guilt. For Victor's mistakes, she wanted me, the wife, to shoulder them. No such good deal in the world. Mom, what are you waiting for? I held the pen steadily, gazing directly at Grace's face twisted in shock and anger. Aren't you the one who loves your son the most? Now the chance to save his life is in your hands, why hesitate? My words were like needles, precisely piercing her most hypocritical spots. Grace's lips trembled, she looked at me, then at the operating room, her eyes weaving cunning calculations and panic. I. She stammered for a long time, unable to form a complete sentence. Are you also afraid of surgical risks? Afraid if he dies on the table, you'll be responsible for signing? I voiced what she dared not say, clearly. Grace's face turned deathly pale instantly. Nearby nurses and patient families gathered, pointing and whispering. This wife is too ruthless, her husband is dying and she's still holding a grudge. What do you know? Didn't you hear, the man has someone outside, and his mom protects him. If it were you, wouldn't you be angry? Still, you can't refuse to save him. I say, let his mom sign. Wasn't it said it's normal for men to play? Now that play caused trouble, the mom should be responsible, it's only fair. The last sentence, unknown who said it, not loud, but like a thunderbolt exploding by Grace's ear. She jerked her head up at me, eyes full of venom and disbelief. Meeting her gaze, I slowly, word by word, said, Mom, have you forgotten? 3 months ago, you said it to me yourself. You said, it's normal for men to play outside, just casual fun, don't make a fuss, consider the big picture. Now, your son has played himself into a heart attack, lying inside. As the mother who understands and supports him most, this big picture should be handled by you. If you don't sign, who is qualified? My voice echoed in the corridor, each word like a resounding slap, fiercely hitting Grace's face. Her body swayed, her face turning from white to green, then purple, a spectacular display. You. She pointed at me, trembling with rage. You poisonous woman. I'll fight you. She lunged at me like mad, trying to grab the pen, scratch my face. I was prepared, stepped back, and shoved the folder and pen to the nearby doctor. Doctor, the situation is clear now. I, as wife, forfeit signing. She, as mother, is here. Please communicate with her. With that, I turned and walked away, not glancing back. Grace was held back by 2 nurses at the waist, still struggling madly, cursing foully. Iris, you thunderstruck wretch. You'll die horribly. If anything happens to my son, I'll haunt you as a ghost. Lily also rushed up, crying at my back, how can you be so heartless? He's your husband too. My steps didn't stop. Husband? From the moment I discovered his betrayal, he wasn't. He was just a stain in my life that I needed legal procedures to remove. I walked to the other end of the corridor, watching the farce from dozens of meters away with cold eyes. Doctors and nurses surrounded Grace, patiently persuading. Grace alternated between throwing tantrums and wailing, refusing to take the pen. She pinned all hopes on making a scene, thinking if she was fierce enough, I'd yield, like before, bearing what I shouldn't for that ridiculous marital bond. She was wrong. Once a heart cools, it can't warm again. Finally, under the doctor's ultimatum, if you don't sign now, the patient really can't be saved, Grace's hand, shaking like a leaf in the wind, took the pen. The moment she signed her name on the consent form, it was as if she used all her strength, collapsing limply into the chair. I watched the operating room's red light turn on, my heart without a ripple. Victor, this is what you owe me. This is what you and your mom owe me. The operating room light shone like a silent red eye. The corridor quieted. Grace slumped on the bench, dazed, as if all vitality was drained. She no longer cursed, just stared blankly at the closed door. Lily sat beside her, whispering comforts. The 2 looked like a pair of sympathetic mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. I sat alone far away, separated by the crowd, like an outsider. My phone vibrated, it was a message from my lawyer. Miss Iris, the evidence preservation application you needed has been approved by the court. Properties and bank accounts under Victor's name will be temporarily frozen, unable to be transacted or transferred. I replied 2 words, received. Then, I opened the pre-drafted divorce agreement. Property division, child custody, we have no children, debt issues, every clause was clear. I was engrossed, not noticing someone approach. Sister Iris. It was Lily. She stood before me, eyes swollen, face with a mix of timidity, probing, and reluctance. Can I talk to you? I didn't look up, eyes on the screen. I have nothing to talk to you about. I know you hate me, and hate Victor." Her voice was low, deliberately pitiful. "But emotions are hard to explain. Victor and I truly love each other. With you," he said. He felt oppressed, no common language. "So," I finally looked up, interrupting, "he found you with common language, then sent himself to the operating room. Right?" My tone was flat, emotionless, but Lily's face paled. "That's not what I meant," she hastily explained. "I just mean, since you have no feelings left, why not let go? Why torment him, and everyone, at this time?" "Torment?" I laughed, finding it absurd and funny. Who did I torment? Did I hit him or curse him? I just made a choice, one granted by law, that's all. I stood up, my height allowing me to look down on her. "Miss Lily, a piece of advice. Now isn't the time to discuss emotions with me. You should go there, accompany your true love's mother, wait for him together. Also," I leaned closer, voice lower, "only for us, don't call me Sister Iris again. I find it dirty." Lily's body jerked as if stung by a scorpion. She bit her lip, tears welling, finally not daring to say more, turned and ran back to Grace. Watching her and Grace hug and cry, I felt no pleasure, only numb desolation. This was the man I loved for 5 years, married for 3. This was the mother-in-law I once devoted myself to, treating like my own mother. In the end, because of this man, they stood against me. And now, because of him, staging this absurd farce. Time ticked by. The operating room light went out. The door opened, a nurse emerged. Grace and Lily sprang forward. "Nurse, how's my son? Was the surgery successful?" The nurse removed her mask, face weary. "The surgery was successful, the patient is out of danger. He'll be transferred to ICU for 24-hour observation, then to regular ward when stable." Grace's legs buckled, collapsing to the ground, wailing, muttering, "God bless, God bless." Lily also wept with joy, supporting her, the two cried in a heap. I stood motionless. Successful, huh? Good. Death would be too easy for him. Alive, he can repay what he owes me, one by one. I turned to leave. Behind, the nurse's voice, "Family, please stay, come pay the fees." Grace's cries stopped abruptly. She and Lily exchanged glances, then both looked at me. "Why look at me?" I stopped, turned. Grace crawled up, strode over righteously. "Iris, go pay the fees. Surgery, hospitalization, follow-up meds, pad them first." Her tone like commanding a nanny, as if she wasn't the one throwing tantrums and forced to sign. "Why should I pay?" I countered. "Because you're the Zhou family's daughter-in-law. Victor is your husband. Spending on him is only natural." Grace's voice rose again. Lily chimed in, "Yes, Sister Iris, Victor's company has cash flow issues lately, he's tight on money. Help pad it first." "Oh? Cash flow issues?" I looked at Lily, eyes playful. "When he transferred 52,000 to you, wasn't he quite flush?" Lily's face went whoosh pale. Grace was stunned, looking at me, then Lily, eyes full of doubt. "What 52,000? Lily, my son gave you money?" "Auntie, no, it was a loan." Lily explained panically. "Loan? Got an IOU?" I pressed step by step. Watching their formation crumble instantly, I found it utterly ironic. Allies against me 1 second, infighting over money the next. I had no interest in their dogfight. I said to the nurse, "Nurse, who signs pays." "Natural. The consent has her name, she should pay." The nurse looked at me, then Grace, face troubled, but nodded, handed the bill to Grace. "This auntie, here's the fee slip, go to first floor payment." "I won't pay." Grace screeched like a cat with stepped tail, knocking the bill away. "I have no money." Where would an old woman get money? My son's earnings are with her. She should pay. As she tried to grab me again, this time I didn't dodge. I let her seize my wrist, then, in front of everyone, took out my phone and pressed play. Mom, Victor says work stress is high, wants to go out to relax. What can I do? Just let him. What relax? He's gone wild. Iris, you're too weak. You must grip the family finances tight. A man's wallet is his lifeline. Control his money, dare he fool around outside? Look at me, your dad was managed obediently. You're too silly. Grace's own sharp, acerbic voice came clearly from the phone. This was her lecture last time at our home. It grated then, so I recorded it casually, useful today. Grace's face turned liver-colored instantly. She looked at my phone like seeing a ghost, tried to grab, but I held her wrist, immobilizing her. Surrounding eyes on her filled with contempt and mockery. So double standards, teaching daughter-in-law to control money, but when son in trouble, make her pay. This mother-in-law is top-tier awful. I turned off the recording, shook off her hand, looked down at her. Mom, this is what you taught me. A man's wallet is his lifeline. Now, your son's lifeline seems not with me. Ask Miss Lily. After all, casually transferring $52,000 must have entrusted the lifeline to her. With that, ignoring the petrified Grace and ashen-faced Lily, I headed straight to the elevator. Behind, faint came Grace's furious curses and her screeching tussle with Lily over money. What a show. And I was just a ticketed audience, ready to leave. My battle had just begun. 2 days later, Victor transferred from ICU to regular ward. I went to the hospital after Grace's call. In the call, unusually, her tone nearly pleading, Iris, come see Victor. He's awake, keeps mentioning you. Doctor says no agitating emotions, just pity him, come once. I agreed. Not out of pity, but some things must be settled face to face. When I arrived at the ward, Lily wasn't there, only Grace peeling an apple. Victor lay in bed, still pale, but better than an emergency. Seeing me, his eyes lit, struggling to sit up. Wife, you're here. His voice hoarse and weak. Grace immediately put down the knife, helped him, winking at me to speak softly. I walked to the bedside, pulled a chair and sat, silent. Victor, seeing me ignore him, anxious, reached for my hand. Wife, sorry, I know I was wrong. Forgive me this time, okay? I've cut off Lily, won't see her again, I swear. He raised 3 fingers in oath, eyes earnest. 3 months ago, I might have softened. Now, I found it laughable. A man only remembers his wife's good when losing control, life threatened. His repentance cheap like roadside flyers. I dodged his hand, took something from my bag, placed on the nightstand. A document. Victor and Grace stunned, puzzled. What's this? Victor asked. Divorce agreement. I calmly uttered 5 words. The ward air froze instantly. Victor's face drained of color, incredulously looking at me, lips trembling. Divorce? Wife, what joke? We're fine, why divorce? Fine? As if hearing the biggest joke. Victor, you call keeping a woman outside, lying about business trips, spending family money lavishly on another woman fine? My voice not loud, but each word like an ice pick, stabbing him. It was momentary confusion. He defended urgently. The one I love most is you, my heart has only you as wife. Lily, she was just an accident. Accident? I looked at him, eyes icy. Then let your mom explain why she instigated don't let wife know. Why she said I make a fuss. Is that also an accident? My gaze turned to Grace. Her face extremely ugly, she didn't expect me to expose her in front of Victor. It was for your good. Which couple doesn't have bumps? She forced a defense. Enough. I didn't want to hear more hypocritical nonsense. I pushed the divorce agreement toward Victor. Victor, I came today not to hear apologies or argue. I'm here to notify you. Here, property division is clear. The house we bought post-marriage goes to me. Your car to you. Deposits split half. If no objections, sign. Part amicably. No. I won't sign. Victor roared agitatedly, chest heaving, aggravating the wound, grimacing in pain. I don't agree to divorce. Iris, you can't do this. I just returned from death's door, and you want divorce? He played the pity card, trying moral kidnapping. Grace reacted immediately, threw herself before me, wailing, Iris, have mercy, spare our Victor. He's like this, how can you stimulate him with divorce? You're killing him. You heartless woman. The mother-son duo, one good cop, one bad, coordinated seamlessly. I watched their performance coldly, unmoved. I waited till they cried enough, then slowly spoke. Victor, are you sure, not signing? My question paused Victor's cries. He looked at me, eyes begging with a subtle wariness. I won't sign. He gritted his teeth, repeating, as if to bolster his resolve. Iris, I won't divorce. Give up. Good. I nodded, took out a second document from my bag. Unfolded it before Victor. It was a long bank statement, printed specially. This is your salary card transactions, from last October to last month, 6 months total. I pointed to red-circled large expenditures. Last October 20th, transfer 20,000, note, little white happy birthday. Last December 25th, transfer 13,104, note, baby Christmas gift. Last month, before your trip, transfer 52,000, no note, but recipient Lily. With each item I read, Victor's face paled more. By the end, colorless, cold sweat beading on his forehead. Grace leaned in, seeing the glaring numbers and notes, her eyes widened. Victor! She screamed incredulously. Where did you get so much money for that vixen? Didn't you say company performance bad, tight every month? Victor dared not look at his mom, just stared at me in terror. Iris, you investigated me? This isn't investigation. I corrected. As your legal wife, I have right to know marital property flows. Your actions are illegal transfer of marital assets. I put away the statement, brought out a third document. This is the second divorce plan tailored for you, after consulting lawyer, based on relevant laws. I handed the document before him. In this plan, due to your marital infidelity and malicious large asset transfer, as the faultless party, I have right to demand you leave with nothing. Leave with nothing. I read clearly word by word. Victor's eyes bulged like bells, breathing rapid, ECG monitor lines fluctuating wildly, emitting shrill alarms. No, impossible. He muttered. You're lying, law doesn't say that. You can disbelieve. I placed the document by his hand. When discharged, consult a lawyer yourself. Or, see you in court. Then, these statements, your hotel records with Miss Lily, and your mom's wise words, I'll submit all to the judge. Guess who the judge will believe? Beep beep, alarms grew louder. Grace finally recovered from shock of son giving money to outsider, seeing Victor's pain, terrified. She didn't beg me again, but rushed madly to the door, shouting, Doctor! Doctor! Come quick! Doctors and nurses rushed in, checking Victor. Patient 2 agitated. What's with the family? Didn't say no stimulation? The doctor scolded sternly. Grace pointed at me, lips trembling, speechless. I stood, straightened my clothes, appearing exceptionally composed amid chaos. I gave Victor a last look. He gazed with a mix of fear, hate, and despair. I smiled faintly at him. Then, turned and left the ward. Victor, the game has just begun. Take your time. I didn't go home immediately. I sat in the hospital downstairs garden, called my lawyer. Daniel, all per plan. He disagrees to amicable divorce. On the other end, Daniel's voice steady, as expected. Miss Iris, you did well. The more agitated now, the weaker his defenses, better for our subsequent litigation negotiations. I've submitted property preservation to court, and divorce litigation materials. Next, wait for court summons. Meanwhile, they may contact you, playing emotions or threats, ignore all, leave to me. Good, thanks. Hung up, I sighed long. Sky darkened, hospital garden lamps lit one by one, dim yellow halos enveloping around. I looked up, could see Victor's ward window. Brightly lit. I could imagine the scene inside. Perhaps Grace wailing curses at me. Perhaps she called Lily, interrogating how much money she took from Victor. Perhaps the former allies against me, mother-in-law and mistress, now staging a dogfight over ill-gotten gains. Truly funny. They seemed to forget that money was Victor and my marital property. Their fight was over what belonged to me. I took out my phone, opened a long unopened album. Inside were photos from Victor and my dating to marriage. First one, in university library, him in white shirt, sunlight on him, smiling clean and warm. I was bewitched by that smile. I quickly scrolled back. Wedding photos, honeymoon, our first new year. How sweet then, how ironic now. Scrolled to last, 3 months ago, our third anniversary. In a high-end restaurant, he gave me an expensive necklace, hugging, wife, for the rest of life, I'll be good to you. And that night, I discovered Lily. Looking at my happy smiling self in the photo, felt strange and pitiful. I extended finger, pressed delete. Confirm delete this album? Irreversible. I tapped confirm. On the screen, all sweet memories vanished instantly. As if they never existed. A cold wind blew, I wrapped my coat tighter. Time to go home. To that home soon to be mine alone. I stood, deleted all contacts of Victor and Grace, blacklisted their numbers. From today, to me, they were just the other party in the divorce case. Nothing more. I turned, walked to parking lot. Behind, from that bright window, faint sharp women's arguments and man's roars. I didn't look back. That war no longer concerned me. My battlefield elsewhere. Home, first thing, clear out Victor's things one by one. His clothes, shoes, game console, collected limited sneakers, all packed in boxes, piled in living room corner. Looking at these, I realized, in this home I lived 3 years, his marks were so many. And from today, I'd erase them all myself. The process calmer than imagined. No anger, no sorrow, like a professional housekeeper doing mechanical work. In the study, saw our marriage certificate. Red cover, gold embossed. Took it out, placed with divorce agreement. Start and end. Separated by just papers. Why did I reach this step? Sat at desk, reviewed these 3 months. The night discovering his affair, I didn't cry or fuss. Just sat in dark, reviewing chat records, transfers over and over. Heart cooling bit by bit, sinking, to icy seabed, feeling no warmth. At dawn, decided. I want divorce. But can't let him off easy. Make him pay dearest for betrayal. From that day, lived like a detective. Didn't confront or expose, acted normal, prepared trip luggage, reminded take care. After he left, first thing, find lawyer. Daniel recommended by legal friend, professional, calm, gave practical advice. He said, in divorce lawsuits, emotions useless, evidence king. So, I planned evidence collection. Under pretext of home broadband renewal, printed Victor's 6-month call details at service hall. On it, daily dozens of calls with Lily. Under family finance pretext, got Victor's salary card subcard, printed fatal bank flows. Even when Grace came again for earnest teaching, impulsively pressed phone record. All this, Victor and Grace unaware. They immersed in my virtuous wife and weak daughter-in-law facade. Unknowing, the once obedient Iris had woven a tight net for them in secret. I even thought, if no heart attack, my plan would be, wait for trip return, slam divorce agreement and evidence on his face, watch his expression. But life always more sudden than drama. His illness disrupted rhythms, but gave unexpected counterattack stage. In hospital corridor, when I put down that pen, I knew I won. Won back my dignity. Now, win back all mine. Organized all evidence files into a bag. Done, sky dawning. Brewed hot milk, stood on balcony, watching city wake from sleep. 3 months, never a good sleep. But today, unprecedented ease. Dawn's light pierced clouds, illuminating sky. New day began. My new life, about to start. Court summons came faster than imagined. Probably Victor and Grace didn't expect I'd go so thorough, so quick. Day receiving summons, phone nearly exploded with calls. All unknown numbers, but I knew it was them. Answered none. Until Daniel called. Miss Iris, the other side wants to talk. About what? Amicable divorce. They agree, but dispute property division. Daniel calm, they want you forfeit property, in exchange, all deposits to you. I laughed in anger. I knew Victor's deposits well. Most spent on Lily. Remaining not even house down payment fraction. Treating me like fool. Daniel, tell them for me. I said coldly. My terms in the agreement, not changing a word. Accept or court. Good, understood. Hung up, new final showdown near. Days later, under Daniel's arrangement, met in law firm conference room. Victor in wheelchair, pushed by Grace. Better color than hospital, but much thinner, eyes gloomy. Grace looked much haggard, eyes on me like poisoned. Lily absent. I guessed Grace had cleared her out of this farce completely. We sat at long table ends, cold air between. Opposing lawyer, a shrewd-looking middle-aged man. He cleared throat, spoke first. Miss Iris, regarding divorce, my client Mr. Victor agrees. But on property division, we think your demand's too harsh, not per law. He expounded laws torrentially, trying to prove my property demand unreasonable. I said nothing, just watched his performance quietly. When done, I looked at Daniel. He nodded, then from briefcase, took thick stack of files. Michael, done? Daniel's voice unhurried. If so, please look at these. He pushed files one by one to table center. This is Mr. Victor and Miss Lily's 6-month call records. This is Mr. Victor's bank card flows, clearly showing transfer of marital assets to Miss Lily, total 137,000 yuan. This is Mr. Victor and Miss Lily's multiple hotel check-ins, times matching his reported business trips to Miss Iris. And this, Daniel last took out a small recorder, this is Ms. Grace admitting instigating her son to conceal affair, and insulting Miss Iris. With each evidence, Victor and Grace paled more. When Daniel took out the recorder, Grace jumped from chair, pointing, furious, this is privacy invasion. Illegal. Daniel smiled, looked at her sharply. Ms. Grace, these evidences obtained legally by Miss Iris. As for legality, judge will give fair judgment. Also, remind you, per law, instigating or aiding marital asset transfer, if serious, may bear joint compensation liability. Grace swayed, fell back into chair, face ashen. Opposite Michael, face very ugly. He took evidences, flipped quickly, brows tightening more. He knew, they lost this case. Victor stared fixedly at table files, body trembling in wheelchair. Suddenly looked up, red eyes at me, hoarse begging, Iris, wife. I was wrong, really, give me another chance, okay? No divorce. He struggled to stand from wheelchair, toward me. Too late. I interrupted, voice cold without warmth. Victor, when you betrayed me, when you and your mom played me for fool, all too late. I stood. Daniel, rest to you. Not glancing back, turned, left room. Behind, Victor's desperate cries, Grace's hoarse curses. Door closing instant, felt my heart's shackles finally opened. Ultimately, Victor signed. Between leaving nothing and losing house, unsurprisingly chose latter. We amicably divorced, house to me, car and remaining small deposits to him. The transferred over 100,000, lawyer handling legal recovery. Day leaving Civil Affairs Bureau, weather exceptionally good. Sunny, sky blue like transparent gem. Holding dark green divorce certificate, felt lighter than red marriage one, more real. Victor didn't come, lawyer handled. Good, avoided final awkwardness. At bureau door, deeply inhaled free air. Felt months accumulated turbidity expelled from lungs. Took phone, did one thing. Settled Daniel's final payment, sent message, Daniel, thank you. Best wishes. Then, deleted his contact. Along with him, call records, bank flows, hotel records, all evidence, all ugliness, deleted together. Ended. All ended. Started car, not home, aimlessly drove city. Past favorite restaurant with Victor, no stop. Past first date cinema, no slow. Those pasts like scenery receding fast outside window, farther from me. Finally, car stopped at seaside. Got out, sea wind lifted my long hair. Looked at distant sea sky blend, boundless. Suddenly recalled 3 months ago, night discovering truth. Sad and dark, felt trapped in airtight box, suffocating, despairing. Now, finally out of that box. World vast, I can go anywhere I want. From bag, took red marriage certificate, threw forcefully to sea. It arced in air, fell into water, soon swallowed by wave, vanished. Goodbye, Victor. Goodbye, my foolish pitiful marriage. Phone rang, friend's message. Iris, free tonight? Come drink, celebrate your rebirth. I smiled. This was my first heartfelt smile in 3 months. I replied, good. Turned, walked to car. Sunset glow stretched my shadow long. Behind, surging sea. Ahead, brilliantly lit city, and a brand new future just mine. Sunlight on steering wheel, warm. Started engine, merged into traffic. Radio played a song. Wave goodbye to wrong, to meet the right.